Kakashi Hatake is a unique story to tell. You see, Team Minato during the canon events mirrored Team 7 as it is now. Each member of Team Minato was themselves a mirror to Team 7, with Rin of course being Sakura and Obito of course being Naruto. This leaves us with one other option for who Kakashi was supposed to be: Sasuke. Kakashi, like Sasuke, understood loss. What it felt like to lose the ones you loved. He lost his father, he lost Obito, he lost Rin, and for a time that destroyed Kakashi, left him a broken man whose only recourse was to break others during his time in the Anbu. But the straw that broke the camel's back wasn't just the death of Minato and Kushina, but the Uchiha Massacre. Kakashi had known Itachi personally, and to a degree felt responsible. Kakashi had every reason to, at any point, turn out exactly as Sasuke had, poisoned by hate, but he didn't. Kakashi is a path divergence for Sasuke, a what-if in his own right. What if Sasuke never turned against Konoha? That sounds like a great story to tell one day. It's why this story feels so plausible. Kakashi did have a reason to turn bad, a good one, and that's exactly what he's doing now. The question is, what will become of him on this dark path? Can he be brought back? Or is this curtains for everyone? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we start, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed. If you enjoy what we do here, please like and subscribe. A simple click of a button from you means the world to us. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. Jiraiya stood there in the early morning sun. He thought about the past, how he was hired by Asuma, the son of the third Hokage, to help them locate and rescue a boy who had been taken. Asuma had offered payment, but to be honest, Jiraiya wasn't of the mind to take it. You see, whether Asuma knew this or not, Jiraiya was one of the students of Hiruzen, Asuma's father. He considered this a favor to the man who had basically raised him. As he stood there waiting, he pulled out a folder. This was everything he could gather on the target that they had to rescue: Kakashi Hatake. The moment he read the name, he looked up from the paper, wondering where he had heard that name before. Oh yeah, Sakura Hatake. I wonder if they're both members of the same clan. As he continued to read through, he was shocked to find the truth was yes. In fact, more than members of the same clan, Kakashi was the son of Sakura. As he read deeper into the file, he learned of Sakura's untimely demise by his own hand, and all that Kakashi had gone through and experienced. As he thought about who could be behind this, he found the assumption of the children to be correct. Sakura was a powerful shinobi, and Jiraiya had served alongside him during the Second Shinobi World War. He had many enemies, but none as vicious as those of Tsunagakure. His exploits in their lands, among their people, had left him with the biggest bounty in all of the bingo book. Well, the biggest that Suna was offering at least. If Kakashi was the son of the late great Sakura, White Fang of the Leaf, then it would make sense that Tsunagakure had taken him. As he read the file, he then noticed a child walking in his direction. Turning his gaze upward, he saw Might Guy approaching. This one he recognized as well. He was the son of Might Dai, the Eternal Genin. Everyone had always underestimated Dai because he never surpassed his rank, but Jiraiya understood the true strength that existed within him, and it was put on display for the whole world to see when Dai sacrificed himself for his village. Guy had been there and seen it all. The power of the 8 Gates. The 8 Gates was a powerful jutsu that could only be used by those who were willing to sacrifice their lives for the chance to surpass everyone. He knew not to underestimate Guy, because the same flame that existed in Dai's eyes could be seen in his son's now. You're here early, Guy, Jiraiya said. My father always said it was important to get up with the sun. Always get 8 hours of sleep and get an early start to the day. It's the key to success. Well, I'm glad you made it. I'm still waiting for the others, Jiraiya said. A few moments passed before Asuma and Kurenai made their way there. As Jiraiya saw them coming, he thought he saw a younger Hiruzen and Biwako walking. He had to do a double take. It looked almost exactly like the pictures Biwako had shown him. Then, after this, Obito and Rin arrived. Rin was chipper and Obito was exaggerated with his movements. He was so sure of himself and their little team that he was halfway soldier marching with confidence toward them. Once they stopped before Jiraiya, he spoke. I'm glad all of you made it. Are you sure you packed enough? The journey to Suna is gonna be long. They each nodded. Jiraiya then turned. Okay, let's go, he said as he walked through the door. They began to make their way down the road toward their destination. As they left the village, they walked for a while before stopping at Tanazuka quarters, which laid in their path. They stopped here for rest, despite the fact that everyone wanted to try out the arcades and casinos. We can come back here after we rescue Kakashi, Asuma said. This place can wait. So they rested for the night, and the day after, they began making their way southwest a little further. As they traveled through the land of rivers, past the hidden village in the valleys, they finally entered the land of wind, and were surprised at how truly hot it was. The sand and sun could scorch one's skin. The open-toed shoes they wore did them no favors. It just exposed their toes to the agony of flaming hot sand. "Ouch, this hurts," Obito shouted with every step. "Oh, ow, 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 it's in my shoe now," he shouted as he bounced around. "Bear it, Obito. This is for Kakashi," Asuma said. "Nah, I gotta admit, this is hellish," Jiraiya said. "Whenever I went to Suna during the Second Shinobi World War, I always traveled at night when it was cooler. In the day, it's too hot." "So then what do we do?" Kurenai asked. Jiraiya opened his backpack and pulled out thick beige tents. "Here, these are easy to put up. They're thick and they're camouflage. We'll rest during the day and move to the village at night." So they put up their tents and entered. As Jiraiya sat there, he pulled out the file. "So, tell me more about Kakashi." "He's a very kind boy," Rin said. "He isn't overly expressive, but he wears his heart on his sleeve, and though he seems pessimistic all the time, he's actually a lot of fun." "He's my eternal rival," Guy said, declaring it for all the heavens to hear. "He's the most skilled student at the academy, and I've chosen him to help me push myself further beyond what I ever dreamed to be possible." "But it's been tough on him recently," Asuma said as he thought back. "Everyone here, along with Kakashi, went out to the arcade one time to have a little fun, and he said he wanted to go home, but we kept him long," Asuma said. Guy looked down. "No, I kept him long." "It's not your fault, Guy," Kurenai said. "None of us knew what was going to happen." Jiraiya looked over. "What happened?" Obito began speaking. "Kakashi wanted to go home that day, but instead we made him go to the arcade with us. But as we were all having fun at home, Mr. Sakamoto killed himself. Kakashi and us, we all felt that if we hadn't brought him to the arcade that day, maybe Mr. Sakamoto would still be alive." Jiraiya nodded. He rubbed his chin. "Sometimes things in life happen, and we think, what if I had done something different, or what if that had happened instead? Sometimes these what-ifs can be painful, and they can distract you from what is. You didn't know that Sakamoto was going to kill himself that day, and you were all trying to be good friends to Kakashi. Besides, there's another possibility you're all forgetting. Even if Kakashi had gone home that day, there's a chance Sakamoto wouldn't have said anything and would have waited for any other time that he was alone to do that. None of you made Sakamoto kill himself, and I'm not sure that you could have stopped him. This world is messed up, and Sakamoto was as well. He should have reached out to friends, and because he didn't, people got hurt. Sakamoto was a sweet man who always looked out for others, but what he did to himself, that really wasn't good. It hurt people, even if he didn't mean it to." "Why did he even do it in the first place?" Guy asked. "Well, from what I know, it had to do with honor," Rin said. "The day we went to the arcade with Kakashi, I saw people talking about Kakashi behind his back. I didn't understand why, but I do now. It was because of a mistake he made during the war. Nobody would forgive him, so he tried to buy back honor via the samurai way," she said. Jiraiya gagged in an exaggerated way. Everyone looked at him. "Hey, Mr. Jiraiya, show some respect." Jiraiya shook his head. "I'm not gagging about Sakamoto. It was a tragedy. I just dislike those old archaic ways. The archaic ways had samurai killing themselves left and right. If you even drew your sword in the master's house or got into a fight in his presence with a peer of yours, you had to kill yourself to regain honor. It was a cold era, and the practice was so dark that I can't help but have a bad taste in my mouth about it. I understand that Sakamoto wanted to buy back honor for his son, and that itself is honorable. But that's just the point. Sakamoto had honor, just nobody recognized it. And now Kakashi's without a father. That's just not right." The group nodded in agreement. "But what's past is past. We can't go back now, only move forward. It's too late for us to save Mr. Sakamoto's life, but we can still save Kakashi's," Asuma said. And to that, the whole group agreed. But as Jiraiya laid back to rest, he couldn't help but think about everything they had said. Something felt a little off about it, and he couldn't help but wonder what. In a dark cave, a strange creature led Kakashi down a corridor. For a mountainous cave, it was carved into the stone with such perfection that it seemed like a hidden tomb for some ancient king or pharaoh, and maybe it was. As he came to the end of the corridor, he stepped in to see a man sitting there on a throne, an elderly man, a man in his 90s or more. He held a scythe and smelt of sweat and the musk of the cave. It was as if he were looking at death himself. The strange creature stepped aside to allow Kakashi time alone with this figure. Kakashi was apprehensive, but as he stood there, the figure raised its hand and beckoned him forward. "Come," the man spoke in a deep voice, very airy as if he were trying to catch his breath. "I will not hurt you." Kakashi began to slowly draw forward. The man's white hair lay across his face, concealing it from view in a way that made the man look more like a specter than before. But as Kakashi drew closer, he could see for certain that this man was indeed flesh and blood. The man's face turned up. A pair of lavender ringed eyes hiding in the shadows of his mane met Kakashi's eyes. "I've been watching you for a long time." Kakashi remained silent and skeptical. I know what you've witnessed in this world. You've witnessed the darkness. You've looked into the void. Who are you? Kakashi asked. The man slowly stood. As he did, a set of tubes seemed to extend to his back from behind. You know what I have learned in my many years of life. Kakashi then spoke. What? The man looked back at him. People are disappointing. As he moved a bit further, he spoke. Men of peace go to war. People who love one another shout curses of death and hatred. Those who seek justice turn injustice into a weapon against those who have done nothing to them. The world is filled with contradicting ideas, and yet somehow they still exist. Kakashi's brows were furrowed in confusion. Are you going somewhere with this? The man turned back to face Kakashi and began to slowly approach him. You've understood this. Your father was a good man, worthy of admiration, a household name during the war. People aspired to be like him. He was the poster child of Konoha's armed forces, and one simple mistake based in love turned everyone against him. In but a moment, his ideals went from loved to hated, and like that, he lost his life. How do you know these things? Kakashi asked. These eyes aren't just for looking at what stands in front of me, child, the man said, motioning toward the Rinnegan. The people hated your father and hated you by extension, and so, in their curses of death towards him, he gave them what they wanted. And what did they do? They turned it against you, as a reason to hate you. I bet that's frustrating, to say the least. Kakashi thought about it. It hurts a lot, if I'm going to be honest. My father served the village with everything he had, and then not only did they throw him away, but they killed him. And now they're doing the same to you, the old man said. Yes, that I understand, and it fills you with an anger that you cannot comprehend. Kakashi nodded. My father was loyal to the village his whole life, and when he needed them most, they were nowhere to be found. All my father ever wanted was peace. Peace and the prosperity of every nation, so nobody would starve again, so nobody would hurt again. He fought the war to end all wars, and yet he's forgotten, hated, and I along with him. The man stepped closer and put his hand on Kakashi's shoulder. But it need not be that way. You see, the world is a strange place, and the people within it are strangers still. But everyone deserves to be happy, and to live in a world of peace. The world of their dreams. It's a fantasy, Kakashi said. I don't see how we could ever achieve that kind of world. Don't be so quick to give up on it. In my younger years, I sought peace and was disappointed as well. Discouraged, I began to believe I had wasted my life. And then, it happened. What happened? Kakashi asked. The greatest moment of my life. My eyes awakened, and I finally saw it. The path toward peace. A true, lasting peace. Kakashi was shocked, yet skeptical. You saw peace? The man nodded. In legends, it is spoken of the man who bears the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths. One such man can become a god of creation, or a god of destruction. And to me, I think this world needs both. A destroyer to tear down the corrupt systems that have been instituted by greed. And after this, someone to help craft the world that the people actually deserve. That's why I called you here. What can I do? Kakashi asked. The man then spoke. The awakening of my eyes has happened too late in my life. I have the power to do as I desire, but I no longer have the means to accomplish my designs. I have become weak, frail, incapable. But you are young, strong, and able to do many great things. I wish to bequeath the future of my vision to you, in hopes that you will use it to bring about peace. Kakashi was interested at this point. Standing there, looking the man over, he spoke. Okay, I'm listening. As night fell over the land of wind and the sun had reached down to the horizon, Jiraiya and the others rose from their tents and used the last embers of twilight to guide their way. When the sun disappeared, the moon and stars rose, and the light given off by them flooded down from above, giving a soft blue glow to the sand before them. What had once been a steamy hot day had turned to a frigid, ice-cold one. It was now that the 6 travelers wished they had brought themselves an extra layer to wear. I thought we wouldn't need it, Obito said as he shivered. We're in the desert. It's supposed to be hot in the desert. It's only hot during the daytime, Jiraiya said. At night, the chill comes into the air because there's no moisture. It can drop to freezing temperatures if you're not careful. Thankfully, tonight, it still seems like it's a bit above freezing, but when we get to Suna, we'd do best to buy extra layers for the return trip. They continued on, freezing their rears off until the gentle glow of the village caught their eye. As they stepped into the village, the cold seemed to settle a bit as the collective heat from the flames and people who lived there seemed to raise it to tolerable levels. The first thing they did was head to the nearest inn, where Jiraiya would pay for a room large enough to sleep all of them. Entering the room, Jiraiya spoke. "I'm hungry. Anybody else want anything?" The entire group did. "It seems you didn't all pack as much as you thought." Getting room service, they had a nice meal and proceeded to fall asleep. While they had rested during the day, they knew they would need as much strength as they could muster for the morning, so they tried to rest a little longer. The next morning, they awakened. They weren't sure how long they would be there, but they needed to gather some supplies. Jiraiya suggested that they get something to cover them further. Rin and Kurenai went out to get some ponchos for everyone. It would keep the sun out, the heat in, and would cover the massive Uchiha symbol on the back of Obito's clothes that would expose who they were. They furthermore got a hat with a facial covering for Asuma that they hoped would further help him hide his identity as the son of the Hokage. They also bought some food to keep themselves fed for the duration of their trip. With this done, they began to ask around. No leads turned up though. Of course no leads turn up. We're asking these people to betray their village. Even if they had seen anything, it's doubtful they'd tell outsiders, Jiraiya said. Then what are we supposed to do, Asuma asked. We checked the village's prison. How do we do that without being caught, Guy asked. It's simple, we don't. We send instead one of my toads. Nobody will suspect a toad, and due to their small size, they might not be noticed at all. And so they waited until nightfall before drawing closer to the prison. Jiraiya would summon his toad and would show him the image they had of Kakashi. Couldn't you have gotten one of him without a mask? The little toad asked. I don't know how to tell. If he's not wearing a mask in there, I could go right past him without even knowing. Well, if he's not wearing a mask in there, then just know that under the left corner of his mouth, he's got a little mole. So if you see a white-haired kid in there with a mole under the left side of his mouth, it's probably him. The toad gave a thumbs up and made its way into the prison, where it was there for quite some time, sweeping every level. Eventually, the toad returned. Well, did you find him? Jiraiya asked. The toad looked at Jiraiya. Nope. The group was shocked. No? Jiraiya leaned forward with a smile. Are you sure you checked every nook and cranny? Sometimes these prisons have secret cells hidden behind walls and underground in catacombs? Yeah, I checked all those too. I'm so adamant he's not in there that I'd bet a year's worth of flies, worms, and crickets on it. Jiraiya looked back. That's good enough for me. Kurenai looked at Jiraiya. If Kakashi's not in there, then where could he be? Jiraiya shrugged. We can look for more secret prisons tomorrow. For now, let's get some shut-eye. So they returned to their apartment. I'm starving. Anybody else want something? Obito asked. Rin and Guy raised their hands. Obito began making sandwiches, but as Jiraiya stood there, he began to think about it. Something feels off. Everyone looked up. What do you mean? Jiraiya looked left and looked right. I don't know. Something just... Suddenly, a shinobi wearing a mask bursted through the window. As soon as he hit the ground, he opened a scroll and summoned from within 10 puppets. Jiraiya, seeing this, sprang into action. However, 5 of the 10 puppets focused on Jiraiya in an attempt to push him back and leave him no chance to attack. One puppet then went toward the rest of the group. Rin! Obito cried out as he jumped over the table holding the knife he was using to cut the sandwiches. He threw the knife, wedging it into the expressionless face of the puppet attacking Rin. However, this did no damage to it. A puppet came at Obito in retaliation. Asuma pulled out his knuckle duster daggers and filled them with chakra. As the group fought against the puppets, Obito would manage to weave the hand signs and release a fireball jutsu that would destroy the puppet he was facing. These puppets are nothing, he shouted as he turned to see the rest of the squad taking down their puppets as well. This was except for Rin, who was on the run. The puppet she was facing seemed to be a bit more advanced, not too unlike the ones facing Jiraiya. A secret chamber opened up, and from within, a long wire with a dagger at the tip raced toward Rin. Obito pushed her out of the way, being cut by the dagger himself. Grabbing the puppet by the wire, he pulled it in closer, where his chakra-filled fist shattered it to pieces. He looked back at Rin with a smile. You okay? She nodded. Obito, your eyes. Looking into a mirror in the room, Obito noticed that they had awakened into Sharingan. Well, I guess I did have the potential in me, he said. At about that time, Jiraiya was finishing off the last of his puppets. The puppets were impressive, but the user could stand to work on them a bit more, he said. The masked shinobi decided to retreat. I wonder who he was. Obito, Rin called out. Everyone looked over to see Obito fall to the ground. Rin caught him. Looking him over, she spotted the wound. The area around it was purple. She knew what it had to be. Poison. Jiraiya looked at Guy and Asuma. Go get that shinobi and bring him back here. They leapt out of the window as well. They lifted Obito and laid him down on the bed. Obito, Rin called, trying to get his attention as he seemed to be losing his lucidity with each passing moment. Jiraiya began attempting to administer anti-venoms and various antitoxins into Obito's system, but none of them seemed to be working. Rin was working on him as well, trying to draw the poison out, but it was no use. Kurenai got a wet towel and laid it over Obito's forehead to help fight the fever he was quickly developing. After a few more moments, Asuma and Guy returned with the shinobi in tow. Rin turned to him and slapped the man so hard his mask fell off, revealing a young man, no older than they were, his hair red, his eyes as brown as the desert. "Who are you?" she demanded. The boy responded, "I'm Sorcery of the Sand." She grabbed him by the collar. "You're going to give me that anti-venom now, or no death you can imagine will ever be as bad as what I've got planned for you." The boy refused though. Jiraiya then walked over and pulled Rin back. Now, no need to be hostile." Jiraiya knelt down. "Why are you here, Sorcery?" "You're spies from Konoha." Jiraiya shook his head. "No, we're not. We're from Konoha, yes, but we're private citizens. I'm retired, and these 5 here with me are not even genin. We're simply here as tourists. The village isn't currently at war with Konoha, so there's no reason for hostilities." "I don't care if you're shinobi or not. You're dead." Jiraiya looked at the others with confusion. Then he looked back at the boy. "Do you treat all your guests like this? What would the Kazekage think?" "Screw the Kazekage and screw you." Jiraiya shook his head. "Such a hateful boy. What did we ever do to you?" "I heard what you were asking. Walking around, talking about that Hatake fellow. The moment I heard that, I knew you couldn't leave here alive." "Hatake? What's that to you?" "Sakumo Hatake, the white fang of the leaf." Jiraiya shook his head. No, we're not talking about Sakumo. Sakumo's dead. He killed himself quite some time ago. Good riddance." Jiraiya sat there, looking into the boy's eyes. "Why do you hate Sakumo so much?" "What's it to you?" Jiraiya shook his head. "I guess it isn't really much of my business." "So yes, indeed, we're searching for someone of the Hatake clan, but not Sakumo. We're searching for our friend, Kakashi. I don't suppose you've seen him?" Sasori spit in Jiraiya's face. Jiraiya wiped it away. "Okay, we'll do this my way." He put his hand on Sasori's head and lifted the fingers of his free hand into a half-ram symbol. Suddenly, Sasori's eyes rolled back into his head. "I'm just gonna go straight to the source to figure out everything we need to know. Give me a second." Jiraiya closed his eyes and entered Sasori's mind. He was here for 2 things. The first of which, he wanted to know which toxin Sasori used to poison Obito. Secondly, he wished to know where Kakashi was kept. As Jiraiya crept through the boy's memories, he came to realize the truth. Sasori had a deep hatred for Sakumo, stronger than most others. This reason was due to Sakumo's involvement in the death of the boy's parents. It was tragic indeed, and it was no wonder why he was angry as he was. But Jiraiya couldn't allow this to get in their way. He discovered the toxin and its composition, and even discovered what it would take to cure as well. Further, he looked for the location where Kakashi might be held, and what he learned was that Kakashi never entered the village. This confused Jiraiya. With all the information he needed, he exited Sasori's mind. Once he did, he commanded the others to kick Sasori out of the room, which they did. Jiraiya would administer the antidote to Obito, breaking the boy free from the poison. "What did you discover, Jiraiya?" Asuma asked. Jiraiya then explained what he had learned in Sasori's mind. "You mean Kakashi's not in this village? If Suna didn't kidnap Kakashi, then who did?" Jiraiya continued to think about it. "Have you guys considered that nobody kidnapped Kakashi?" "What do you mean?" Rin asked. Jiraiya continued. "I was thinking about it, and Kakashi has been going through some rather rough stuff recently, hasn't he?" The group looked at each other and then nodded. "The way he was treated because of his father. The way his father was treated. Is it possible that maybe Kakashi got fed up, crashed out, and broke everything in his apartment himself, and then left the village of his own volition?" "No, there's no way Kakashi would do that," a weak voice said. Looking to Obito, Jiraiya spoke. "Well, it's a logical idea." Obito shook his head. "No, it's not. Kakashi would never do something like that." Jiraiya thought about it. "Perhaps, but nonetheless, he's not here in this village, and now things are getting dangerous. I admire your desire to save your friend, but you're not even genin yet. We need to head home. I can continue searching myself, but you guys need to return to the village. So we're gonna rest up tonight, and we're gonna take some time tomorrow for rest and eating, and then tomorrow night we'll leave the village. No ifs, ands, or buts." Solemnly, the group agreed. And so they rested that night just as Jiraiya said, and as the evening came the day after, they all got up. Obito was putting on his poncho. Rin approached him. "Obi, are you okay?" Obito nodded. "Yeah, just a bit of a headache, that's all." "No, I mean, you've been upset all day." Obito thought about it. "I've been thinking about what Jiraiya said. What if he's right? What if Kakashi really did leave by himself? If Kakashi left of his own volition, then he'd return of it as well." Obito turned back. "I hope you're right. Kakashi stood there, looking down at the body of the man he had met only a few days before. It was strange what the man had desired of him. If you're thinking Kakashi killed him, then think again. The man had spent time talking with Kakashi, and now Kakashi understood the true power of the Rinnegan and the point of why the man called him here. He was to destroy the shinobi world that had killed his father, and then reform the world as it was always meant to be. As Kakashi looked down, he felt how strange these new eyes were. These Rinnegan, their powers were amazing. This man, this Madara Uchiha, had bequeathed his will for a better world to Kakashi. But Kakashi's own plans were a little different. He did not think some world of illusions would help anyone. Only in reality could people truly be happy. And now Kakashi was going to use the power bestowed upon him to destroy the world that had been created by and for war, and replace it with one where peace and love, the ideals his father desired, could finally be achieved. And where should he start? Well, there was only one place that he could start: the very village that took his father from him. As the group made their way home, they exited Suna just as the sun rose and made their way through the land of rivers. They stopped only as night fell again, and by that point they had already reached the Tanazuka quarters. Jiraiya offered to let them stay the next day and enjoy themselves, even offering to give them some money to go and spend on fun and games, but nobody's mood was good enough to take him up on that. So as the next day rolled around, Jiraiya and the team made their way back to the village. Entering Konoha, Jiraiya put his hands upon the shoulder of Asuma. "I'm very sorry that this didn't turn out well for you and your friends, but I'm still on contract. I can think of some other places where I could search for Kakashi, but for now, leave the task to me. Take care of yourselves." And with that, Jiraiya once more left the village, heading out to find the last son of the Hatake clan. Guy returned to his home, as did Rin and Obito. Kurenai did too, and Asuma returned to his father, who scolded him for leaving. "You disobeyed me and left the village, heading for Suna. Do you know what could have happened? You could have started a world war. Millions could have died because of you. What do you have to say for yourself?" The young man, sitting in his chair, leaned forward, his hands catching his face, beginning to cry. I was the one who told Kakashi to go to the arcade with us. I wanted him to have fun, and because Kakashi wasn't at home, his father killed himself. I couldn't let Kakashi suffer like this alone. I needed to rescue him, save him from himself." Hirazen's shoulders lowered. Walking around the side of his desk, he knelt down and put his hands on the shoulders of his son. "I get it, Asuma. I understand why you felt you had to do it, but it was still wrong. If you had gotten hurt, I don't know what I would have done." Asuma continued to cry. Hiruzen hugged his son. "You will have to be punished, son, but I just want you to know that I'm glad you're home, and that you care for your friends as much as you do." That night, as Asuma lay in bed, looking up at the ceiling, he couldn't help but think about his friend. Where did you go, Kakashi? The next morning came, and as it did, the group all got together at the academy as they were required to do as punishment for their leaving the village. They would need to stay extra and help clean the facility, but after they finished, they were allowed to go home. There wasn't much talking. They stopped by a little restaurant to go get something to eat. It was Guy's idea. He had some money left over and wanted to treat them to something nice, hoping it would get the conversations flowing, but sadly nobody was willing to talk. "Come on, guys. I know you're sad, but we need to get back into the groove. Mr. Jiraiya will find Kakashi, and when he does, we'll all be together again, okay?" Rin nodded. "Yeah, guys. Maybe Kakashi just needed some time alone. He'll come back all by himself." As if her words had caused it, suddenly there was an explosion outside. The 5 children got up from their seat and rushed toward the sound of the disturbance. There they saw rubble, and standing before them was the form of the boy they'd been seeking for so long. But there was something different about him, something dark. Set deep within his head were the Rinnegan, and their glow spoke of the hatred that had formed in Kakashi's heart. "Kakashi, what's going on?" Kakashi looked back. "Oh, hi guys." Kakashi looked around. "Yeah, I know it's a mess, but I just think it has to happen." "What do you mean?" Rin asked. Kakashi took a deep breath and sighed. "The world has gotten out of hand. Wars and dishonor, disrespect. I think it's just time that all of that ends. A world without shinobi is a world where peace finally reigns. So I'm going to flush out the old and begin working to make a new world. And I want you guys to be a part of it." Looking around at the devastation, Rin spoke. "Kakashi, you're gonna kill someone." Kakashi nodded. "That's the point. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. It's sad, but some people will try and stand in the way of my dreams, and those people, I can't allow them to live. It's for the greater good." "This isn't the greater good, Kakashi," Asuma said. "I know you're distraught, but let us help you. You don't really want this." "Hush," Kakashi said. "I don't think you understand. We've had 2 world wars in recent years, and there's no telling how many more we'll have in the future. For 1,000 years, this world knew nothing but war. the Warring States period before the civilized era. But then I came to realize there is no civilized era. We're still doing the same thing we've been doing for the past millennium. We're just doing it under better defined banners and behind thicker drawn lines. There's no salvaging society. It needs to be destroyed and reworked from the ground up, and I'll be the one to do it. My eternal rival! I know that society has issues, but there are other ways to go about reformation. This is not the way. Kakashi stood there. So you all are gonna try and stand in my way too? We can't let you destroy the village, Kakashi. I know you don't mean it, Asuma said. Kakashi almost looked like he would cry. Please, guys, don't make me kill you too. I want you to rule with me and make the world how we want it to be. Don't make me do this. The only one making you do anything, Kakashi, is yourself, Kurenai said. We won't let you destroy the village, and you don't have to. Kakashi's teary eyes ran over as his brow began to furrow. If you will also fight to preserve the world that killed my father, then I'll count you as members of the guilty party I'm going to destroy. This is your last chance. Join me and rule, or protect this village and die. Nobody moved from their place. Kakashi looked up. Then I guess this is what has to be. Releasing a Shinra Tensei around himself, a powerful force not too unlike the wind began to push them back. Asuma and Kurenai were sent flying. Asuma covered Kurenai with his body, taking the blow. Kurenai wrenched himself from his arms. Asuma, she called out. He seemed to be in pain and he wasn't moving, only wincing. Kurenai looked back. How could you, Kakashi? Guy would quickly open up some of his gates. He opened it up to the max he could, which right now was his 5th gate. His skin turned red as he roared, building up his fighting spirit. A powerful blue aura appeared around him. He rushed forward to attack Kakashi, only for Kakashi to take a step back and push his fists out of the way. I'm going to beat some sense into you, Kakashi. I won't let you go down this path. He attempted to punch Kakashi again. Kakashi formed a chakra rod to catch Guy's fist, but Guy's fist passed clean through the rod, only slowing momentum. It struck Kakashi in the nose, breaking it and sending Kakashi rolling back. Kakashi rose up to his knees, the front of his mask turning a burgundy color as a warm, wet feeling began to move across it. He looked up at Guy as he came in again at inhuman speeds. Kakashi couldn't even see it, but he could sense it. He knew he needed to get out of the way. That was until Kurenai, using her hiding and surface technique, appeared from the ground, gripping Kakashi's ankles. Looking up, he saw Guy coming in. Guy struck Kakashi relentlessly. 2 shots to the stomach, 1 to the cheek, 1 to the stomach, a right hook followed by a left. His fists were coming in so fast that Kakashi couldn't even see them. Kakashi then switched to the Preta path and began absorbing Guy's chakra. He would slowly begin to guard with his arms until Guy ran out of juice. Kakashi was, at this time, covered in blood. Pulling free from Kurenai, he used the Ashura path to form a battering ram with his arm. He would strike Guy in the chest, sending him flying backwards into the rubble. He would then form a wire and wrap around Kurenai's wrists, pulling her from the surface of the ground and smashing her down a fair number of times before throwing her off to the side. In horrible pain, Kakashi would see Rin coming. Calling up the King of Hell, he stepped into its mouth for a time. Rin began to strike out at this strange summon. Suddenly, beside the King of Hell was a giant centipede, its eyes bearing the mark of the Rinnegan. It began to attack Rin. She stepped back to get away from it, but it rammed her, sending her flying. Obito caught her. Rin! Not long after, Kakashi exited the King of Hell's mouth, completely rejuvenated. As he stood there, he looked at Obito. It didn't have to be this way, Kakashi said. Obito then cried out, It still doesn't! Why are you doing this? Obito couldn't understand. Kakashi would never do something like this. Looking at his friends on the ground, looking at Rin, then looking at Kakashi, Obito's entire world was coming apart, and there was nothing he could do to save it. But at about that time, when he was at his lowest, a power awakened in him that he had never dreamed. The power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. As his eyes flared in the direction of Kakashi, Kakashi noticed. No matter, they're no match for the power of the Rinnegan. He summoned the centipede to his side and then commanded it to attack Obito. Obito, still holding Rin, could only think of protecting her, and out of nowhere it seemed he summoned an ethereal warrior, a Susanoo. It pulled a blade and cut the centipede to pieces. Kakashi saw this and was shocked. Is this the true power of the Sharingan? Obito laid Rin down. Don't worry, Rin, I got this. He stood and began to run toward Kakashi again, striking out at him. Kakashi blocked the shots and then jumped backward, forming a chakra rod which he rushed forward to stab Obito with. However, Obito didn't dodge. He simply cast Kamui to warp it to another dimension. As Kakashi continued to attack, Obito's Kamui continued to defend, making him intangible. Eventually, Kakashi's fist would be caught by Obito. Stop, Kakashi, it's no use. Suddenly, Kakashi would roll on his back, dragging Obito with him, kicking Obito into the wall. Obito would hit it and fall to the ground. Growling, he shook his head. He sat up and saw Kakashi coming at him again. Just before Kakashi could connect though, Obito cast Kamui and sent Kakashi to another dimension, safeguarding the village and its friends. He would then follow him into this dimension. Once there, Obito would stop. Kakashi, I don't want to lose you. You're my best friend. We're not friends, Obito. We never were. You only ever cared about Rin, and because she liked me more, you developed an unhealthy rivalry. A need to defeat me to prove yourself better. Here's your chance. Defeat me. Kill me and save the village and take the girl for yourself. He rushed at Obito with a chakra rod. Pulling a kunai, Obito parried. They exchanged blows for some time, seemingly equally matched. With his Sharingan, Obito could keep up with Kakashi now. Please, Kakashi, stop! Kakashi kept striking. Eventually, Obito activated Kamui and stopped defending. Kakashi's fists began to fly through Obito's body. As he kept striking, he began to yell loudly, his eyes overrunning with tears. Fight fair, Kakashi demanded. Obito stood there. Kakashi. Kakashi tried to tackle Obito, flying straight through him. Obito looked back. Why are you trying to destroy the village? This isn't what your father would want. And how do you know what my father would want? Because I know why he died. Kakashi stood. He began to point his finger into Obito's face. If Obito hadn't been intangible, Obito's nose would be jabbed by him by now. You don't know anything. You claim to know my father, but I was the one who lived with him. I'm the one who suffered when he died. Obito spoke. Your father fought for the village because he loved it. He sought peace for the world, but not through killing. You're attempting to start a new war, one worse than all of those that came before it. This isn't what your father would want. He fought to protect the village he loved. Then why did it throw him away? Because people are messed up, Kakashi. The world is sick. So there's no reason. You're saying there's no reason, Kakashi yelled. He dove at Obito again, but this time Obito teleported them both. Their destination? Konoha Cemetery, Sakamo's grave. Kakashi landed in front of it and saw it. Why would you bring me here? Why would you show me this? Because it's important. You need to refocus yourself. Your father's death wasn't meaningless. It wasn't because of how people treated him. It was because of how they treated you. He loved you, Kakashi, and he gave up his life not so you could just throw it away in a tantrum. He gave up his life so you could live. How can I live in a village like this? A village that took away the person I cared for most. The only family I had left. Obito knelt down by Kakashi, and for the first time in a while, he dropped his Kamui so he could hug Kakashi. You still have family, Kakashi. You've got me, and Rin, and Kurenai, and Asuma, and Guy too. We all love you. I'm not asking you to look at the people who hated your father. I'm asking you to look at your father, who loved you, and loved the village enough to die for it. To look at your friends who crossed half the continent to find you. You did? Kakashi asked through tears. Obito nodded. We went to Suna. We even got confronted by a ninja and I was poisoned. We infiltrated a prison. We did a lot to find you. We wanted to bring you home. But now the only person who can bring you home, Kakashi, is you. How can I come back? I hurt you all my friends. I hurt them and destroyed so much. It's okay, Kakashi, just come back. Kakashi stood there and looked at the grave of his father. The epitaph read, he gave his life to preserve his village and to protect his son. Never dishonored, never forgotten. Kakashi began to cry again, but as he calmed down, he spoke. Okay, I will. And from there, Kakashi turned himself over to Konoha's shinobi. Asuma argued his defense, and due to the fact that nobody was killed during the attack, Kakashi could be let slide. The Hokage declared it an accident and pardoned Kakashi. Kakashi never was quite the same after, but maybe that was a good thing. His heart had grown, and he began to understand the hearts of others better. And now, with his new Rinnegan, Kakashi's strength had grown tremendously. Kakashi, together with his friends, dedicated himself to bringing peace to the world as was envisioned by Sakamoto. They became envoys to the other nations, hoping to foster peace, and through their efforts, a third Shinobi World War was avoided. And as peace came into the world, Kakashi finally came to terms with the passing of his father, realizing why he had passed on, and what Kakashi was meant to do from the start. For the first time in a long time, Kakashi was finally happy. And that's the end of the story. I know, it's unusual that a story only has 2 parts to it, but I didn't think it needed more than that. It was compelling enough that adding a 3rd part might have detracted from the video's story. That being said, I hope you all liked it. If you did, let us know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when other videos like this drop. And while you're waiting for those, be sure to check out these other great videos on our channel. Until next time, peace out.